Welcome to the Hypothalamic Amenorrhea Podcast. I'm Dani Sheriff, your host, certified fertility awareness practitioner, functional nutrition counselor, and founder of the HA Society, and of course, an HA recovery coach who has walked where you currently are walking. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. So let's dive in. But last thing, nothing on the show should be taken as medical advice, so please seek the advice of your physician.
All right. Listen up. If you are listening to this right now, you're hearing my voice in your ears in this very second. The Holistic HA Practitioner certification is open for enrollment right now. Yes. So if you're feeling the call to work with women with amenorrhea, to get their periods back, to help them get pregnant, optimize their fertility, this is the course for you. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Dani, this is a podcast for people with amenorrhea. True. This certification is not going to be for all of you. This certification is going to be for those of you who really feel that call, that the call that I had, the call that Ashley had, to make a change and fill the gap that the healthcare practitioners, the nutrition coaches, the health coaches, the fitness coaches haven't been able to do for us. So if you are a health practitioner, if you are a fitness instructor, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, or if you aspire to work with women with amenorrhea in the way that we do, then you are the person that this is for. And it really takes a lot of the time people who have been through it to come out the other side and help the others go through it too, right? So if that happens to be you, maybe you're a few cycles in, maybe you are recovered, or maybe you're on your journey, but you can already tell, like, yeah, this is the change that I want to make, then yeah, the Holistic HA Practitioner certification is for you. Or maybe you know the healthcare practitioner in your circle who needs this information, or the personal trainer or the nutritionist in your sphere that needs this information. Pass the link on it. Not only are you going to have these skills and the tools that you need to actually feel confident as a coach and confident to go out there and actually help women and make a difference, but you're going to have the credentials too. This is an accredited course with the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine. And Ashley and I are so excited to be launching the very first cohort of this. This means it's the best time to join the certification because you're going to get in the ground level. And the first 48 hours, we're doing the early bird pricing, as well as adding 2 huge bonuses. So if you're listening to this right now, it's currently the first 48 hours. So you're going to want to get in on this. Do not delay. Check it out. thehasociety.com/certification. The Holistic HA Practitioner certification is going to be awesome, and we cannot wait to work directly with you to make you the best HA coach that you can be. See you there. Hey everyone, welcome back to the HA podcast. We have a recovery story today. Yay! I'm joined by Abby.rauch. She is we've been talking for a while. I don't know your story super duper in depth, which is exciting. I haven't been, I didn't work one-on-one with you extensively or anything. So this is a nice opportunity to kind of sit back and hear from you about your story. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Dani. And I'm just one of your success stories, but I'm from afar. I was afraid to commit. I found the podcast at a low point in anger, and it saved me. So I'm, maybe some of your listeners from, can relate that, I tried to solve it on my own. Looking back, I so would have rather joined the HA Society or, called you so much sooner. But nevertheless, your podcast actually did, help me along and recovered quite well. So I've been recovered for a little over a year. But I feel like it started way before that. I was telling you that I was kind of reflecting on, how this came to be and where it started. And I was telling you that it was such a beautiful tribute to what you do. And yeah, I'm excited to actually just to be able to brag on you for saving me from afar. So thank you.
No, that's what the show is for. We completely believe that most people are capable of recovery on their own. And when I met you, you had recovered on your own. So, but I am honestly so honored to have played a role and to have been there for all the people listening. To play any kind of role in their journey is so fulfilling. And today you get to do that for people listening. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm really excited. I never thought that I'd be, on this podcast or on any podcast. So it's pretty exciting for me.
Yeah. It's people have to be careful, because if you talk to me, at some point, I'll probably just invite you onto the show. So just be careful. Okay. So tell the people a bit more about you, who you are, where you're from, what you do. And then kind of dive into where your recovery story begins for us.
Okay. So I'm 28 years old, and I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina for college and never left because it's gorgeous. And I'm a teacher. I teach fourth grade. I've been teaching fourth grade for 6 years, I think, 6 or 7. And I find that extremely stressful, which
I've heard teaching
start everything.
Stuff.
Yeah, I thought going to school my whole life, I would be fine. It's I know how this goes, and sorely mistaken, but it's quite all right. But I think that one of the things when I was reflecting and thinking about what I would say when you asked me to be on the show, of where it began, oh my gosh, I thought when I had lost my period for about 3 years, I assumed it started then, but it always starts so much sooner than that.
I mean, to actually determine where it started would be a whole podcast in and of itself.
Right.
I'm sure you have an idea.
Yeah. I mean, my poor mom was always on a diet. I mean, I went with her for, Weight Watchers. I saw her go through Jenny Craig, and, it was always something that she wanted to fix in herself. And so it was always something I was fixated on because I love my mom. And, I remember being in grade school, and I always felt like the chunky kid. And
Sure.
I mean, I was sensitive about wearing a large. And, by middle school, I really thought that people only paid attention to the kids that they thought were attractive. And so I started getting kind of obsessive, oh, these girls are able to wear a 2-piece bathing suit. And that was a big deal. And I went to my mom and said, Mom, can I have a 2-piece bathing suit? And she loved me enough to be I don't know if you're ready for that. And it's all the confirmation that I needed. Yeah. I mean, she was trying to protect me because I was soft. I was kind of, jiggly. I was going through a growth spurt, and she loved me enough. She was maybe not. And then she said, instead of having, a lot of cookies after school, maybe you should reach for an apple instead. And so it already started that idea of, okay, I need to change something early on. And, I didn't have a really good relationship with exercise, because we had a small house, and I felt if I was doing jumping jacks or something in my room, my dad would come up and he'd be what are you doing in here? Because I was shaking the whole house, by doing jumping jacks, or it just wasn't something that was really encouraged. Not that it was frowned upon, but I definitely didn't feel like that. I mean, I can remember going on like a Special K diet that I picked up from a magazine. And I guess my whole story is really one of anger, because I followed every magazine. I tried every single diet just because I liked having that kind of control. And where I first started losing my period was right around when COVID happened. And it was a time of complete lack of control. Well, I guess that's when I started caring about it, put it that way, because I was newly married and I already had this mentality of, I don't want to be a fat wife. I don't want to look like I let myself go. So I was already starting to like obsessively exercise as soon as I, got out of college. Oh, let's not even mention that I was psychotic about gaining the freshman 15. I was like, it's going to be the freshman negative 15. And it was.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, I already had a lot of the over exercising and under eating. I went through, now looking back, like 3 different eating disorders. I started off on more of a binge eating disorder where, if it was there, I had to have it, and I had to have it in excess. And then instead of throwing up, then I was just not eating for, a day or 2, and then see 20 more candy bars and eat all of those. And it was just a wicked cycle. But what was balance? I don't know. And then after that, I went into a full-fledged orthorexia for like 3 or 4 years, where I think I was up to exercising maybe 5 hours a day. I had like yoga. I did yoga in the morning, and it was all through like the Sweat app, which was a craze. I don't know if it still is or not, but I love it. I still have it.
Is that like one by Kayla someone?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. So I had that, and the lovely thing about it, they encourage a healthy moderation, but you can just keep clicking on workouts. And it started becoming an obsession. I loved, like, let me see how many different forms of exercise I can get in one day. I did half hour of yoga. I would walk after that. Then I would have a cup of tea and, wouldn't eat until maybe 1 o'clock. So I was getting in multiple exercises first thing in the morning. And then I lifted weights for a good hour and a half. I went for a jog before my husband would get off of work. Then I would go for a walk with him. And then, depending on how much I ate that day, determined whether or not I took a break or added something else on. So I was always doing that bartering of, if I ate this, I have to exercise this much. I counted calories. I did all of it, a combination. And basically I learned it all from magazines, from society, from the TV, from any single website I could find. I mean, I think I was for a while even on like the bikini competitors. I was going on their crazy diets just, when it was recommended for a month, I was doing it for 6 months. I was really deep into it. And then I remember after a while that I actually had slipped into an anorexia where I was terrified to eat anything, because I knew exactly how much I should weigh at 2 o'clock. I knew if I wanted to lose weight by the next day, I knew how much I had to eat, like even measuring the quantities of liquids I was taking in to make sure that I was less. Because to me, if you didn't lose weight by the following day, you had failed in the day before. Right? Wow. I mean, I can even recall for maybe 2 years, I was doing 20 push-ups every time I went to the bathroom. I remember because you have that program through email where it's jumpstart your HA recovery. And
right,
I can't remember
challenge.
Right. Okay. I did it. And I was shocked by the one day when you said, where are the other places that you're putting exercise in your life. And I was like, oh, I mean, like I've slowed down on my exercise a great deal. But then when you had mentioned like squats when you're brushing your teeth and all of that, I realized how much extra exercise besides all of the normal 5 hours that I was doing still counted. I was so deep into it. I was so deep. I can't even believe I was able to claw myself out.
I mean, it sounds pretty chronic, like it's in every area of your life at this point.
Yes. And here's the terrible thing is that I had finally, after college, and I had been married for a few years, I had finally reached a place where I thought I was thin enough. I was actually happy with the way things were. But then I started having this nagging feeling like, I still don't have a period. At first it was a joke. And then it became this, what's wrong with me? Like, I didn't want to have a baby. I wasn't ready for that, but what's wrong? And I was so angry because I went to so many doctors and nobody cared. Nobody cared at all. I mean, the first doctor I went to, it was just a general checkup. And she asked me if there were any problems. And I said, well, I'm a little concerned that I haven't had a period in 3 years. And she was like, oh, why do you think that is? I mean, are you trying to get pregnant? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, why do you care at this time then? And I said, well, I just feel like there's something wrong. And I like to check off all my boxes. I wanted to make sure that everything about me was perfect because that was the only place that I felt like I could like myself. If I had done everything perfectly, then I liked myself. And that was just a nagging thing coming up that meant that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't perfect or up to the level I should be. And she said, well, we can get you on some birth control. And I said, well, I really don't want to do birth control because I know it has other side effects. And she was like, well, there's really no other way to fix it. Like, that's what they told me. I know. I was like, really? And I mean, I brought this woman my full eating calendar. Like it was so obvious. I brought her like months and months of like, I had 2 5-ounce pieces of chicken this day. I had 2 carrots this day. Like it was that measured out for months and months and months. I brought her the fact that I'd been drinking 10 cups of tea a day. I brought her the fact that my general vitamin had caffeine in it because it was a metabolism boosting. I brought my pre-workout, which was just a caffeine drink. And none of that stood out to her. She was like, oh, well, maybe your calories are a little low. But you know what? I really could take a page out of your book, is what she told me. She did.
I know, like, dude.
She was like, well, look at me. I'm a little overweight. I would like to be down to your weight, maybe. And so it completely, I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to help. But she said, well, maybe you should speak to a nutritionist. Tried to get a hold of the nutritionist. Nobody would call me back over like a month. I even had the doctor contact the nutritionist, and it's like
they don't like money or something.
I know. And then my mom's a nurse, and my mom told me, hey, I've got somebody at the place I work that is a nutritionist. Maybe, we're pretty close. She'd talk to you. And the lady, she was super nice. And she said, hey, I really like how you kind of restock your food on the weekends. Cause like I had a slice of pizza and popcorn, like 4 or 5 bags of popcorn on the weekends, along with, my my tiny piece of tuna and my little like unflavored peas, and, everything is tiny portions. But, she was like, yeah, it's good that you have a little bit more calories there. But, it looks good. I think you're doing well. And so I didn't even have that confirmation from, I think she was a dietitian. I wasn't really sure of which nutritionist or dietitian, because I know that there's a difference, but I'm not really well educated on the difference there. But so I still had nothing from there. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to a gynecologist. Maybe they'll think that this is a real issue.
That'd be
And
logical.
right. Went to the first one, and she told me, she was like, she told me that I needed to eat red meat. And I was like, what? She said, yeah, you need to eat red meat and salt. It's like, oh, okay, I could try that. And she's like, but honestly, you should really just be on birth control. I said, well, I don't want to be on, yeah, same thing. I don't want to be on birth control. And she was like, well, this problem is never going to fix itself unless you're on birth control. Well, can you look at all of the stuff? Like, I brought her the same thing I brought the other doctor, with all of my measurements, how much I was exercising, all of this stuff. And she was like, yeah, you just need to be on birth control. And then when I asked her if there was anything else I could do, like nutritionally, if I was missing something, she got nasty with me. She got huffy and like, well, I mean, I guess you can try to, do the red meat and more salt for, a few weeks, but it's something like this it'll take a long, long time, and you won't get your period back for a long, long time. And I was like, but it's possible.
Yeah.
But she was like, well, I don't know, but come and see me in a month and then we can talk about it. So basically, even if it had been solvable, she wasn't even willing to give me the amount of time I needed to see. She just wanted to get me on birth control right away. I tried another gynecologist after that. And it was that other gynecologist that she tried me on the starts with a P. Yeah, for the challenge. My body didn't respond to that. And then she convinced me that I should try birth control just as a can this work thing.
Yeah. Okay.
2 months of birth control and it still didn't work. I was that deep in that it was not working. I mean, my body temperatures were so low, because COVID, you had to take your temperature every time you entered a building. And I mean, my temperatures were like 94.
Whenever you would get like a blood pressure tested at random, because like you go to the optometrist, they check your blood pressure. Were you usually like low?
Super low. And everybody kind of congratulated me on that.
I got rejected from donating blood because my temperature was so low, but they were like, it's really great for you. That kind of like your experience where they're like, I'm jealous.
Yes.
And I was like, dude, I don't know.
I mean, the amount of like the side effects I had from being that thin. I mean, my husband and I, we have a motorcycle, and I would randomly fall asleep. And I mean, it's a sport bike, so if you're not holding on,
you to sleep.
I would just fall asleep all of a sudden. I never told him because he would never had me back, like on the back again. But I mean, I was falling asleep every time I was going out for a walk. I like my shins. I was getting like the stress fractures. I was even getting them in my wrist from. Yeah, I was real bad. I was real off.
Were you a very low body weight by this point?
Oh yeah,
like super lean.
Yes, I had, and I thought I was able to pass like any fitness test. I thought I was doing great. I was able to do P90X in my sleep. Like I was like, yeah.
Like quick thing on that too, because that's a very common one that we can all resonate with. Look how fit I am. Look how far I can run. Look how low my blood pressure is. Look how look at me. Just because we can do that actually doesn't even mean anything. It's such a funny like marker of health. I get to some degree it makes sense, but at a certain point, being at the level of elite triathlon endurance doesn't actually make any sense, because as we are designed to adapt to stresses. If you put your body through enough stress, if you lift enough weight, if you have to run long enough, your body will be like, okay, this is a situation we're in, we better adapt to make this livable. It's
Right.
not like, oh my gosh, I love this, I'm going to get more healthy. It's just like,
Yeah.
no, we're going to adapt to stress. That's actually all that's happening. So I don't know, just throwing that out there for
No,
people resonating.
it's so true. It's they have to resonate with that. I mean, because I was shocked at how many things were wrong, and I would come and tell people my side effects and they never were able to connect it. I mean, I told you I had like all of the pigmentation on my face, which I found out just recently is connected to
Yeah.
hormone imbalance. I mean, I could not hold my pee. I was peeing my pants all the time. All the time. Of course, I also was psychotically drinking about 20 glasses of water a day. So there's that. But I was constantly peeing my pants. I was like
But
bringing a change of
were
clothes to
you
work.
partly drinking all that water too because you were thirsty a lot?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was thirsty.
Hence the salt.
But it's almost like the more I drank, and because I had nothing else. Well,
Yeah.
the magazines say drink 2 glasses of water before you eat every meal, and you need to have at least 8. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna get double then. Like,
Yeah. I
everything
feel
that
like if you feel like you can't leave the house without your drink bottle, like if you're
yes.
freaked out by leaving the house, or it's like you can actually go to the grocery store for like an hour trip without a water bottle. Like you should be able to
Yeah.
do that.
I was not. I was
Yeah,
not doing
I
that.
did that too, trust me.
I'm such a textbuk case. I'm like right there. I've got to be the absolute typical. But yeah, after I was like, whatever kind of birth control they put me on, I was having morning sickness like I was pregnant, like every day. I mean, in the bathroom at school, I'm sure it only encouraged all of the rumor talking around me, but I just had reached a low point. I was trying to, get some sort of result, and I was so discouraged. And it was at that point that I ordered my doctor. I was like, I need you to come and talk to me again. Just what is, like, it's not working and I'm miserable. And she was like, okay, well, there's still more things we can do. And I was like, but what are we treating? What is wrong? What is this? You have to have some sort of idea as to what I have if you have plans of action, right? Nobody would tell me. And then she finally was like, well, I think you have hypothalamic amenorrhea.
Okay.
And I said, what's that? And she explained it in the very doctor way, where I'm sitting there with a pen. I didn't even know what to write down. I'm like, okay, well, all right, how do I fix this? And she was like, well, we can switch the birth control, and we can treat it with that to at least get you a natural bleed and all of this stuff. And I said, well, how do you spell this? I'm going to research it. She said, no, don't research it. Why? It'll only make your condition worse. What? Okay.
Well, that's
all
a new
right.
one.
Yes. I mean, to be diagnosed and then for her to say that, I was like, okay, fine. Didn't listen, bought myself like 7 hormone books. And then I Googled and I found your podcast. And that's when I started at that ultimate low point. And I had my period back in like 2 months. But if you could imagine how extreme I was on one end, I threw everything into
That's your
recovery.
personality, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I don't take things lightly.
Right. Okay. So so that's really interesting. I feel like those people are certainly, I don't know if they're less common or what, but it's very interesting to me, the people who can be like, oh, okay, I'll just do that.
Well, I mean, let's not think that it was easy. There was crying, there was temper tantrums. Oh, it was terrible. And then I was trying to, I did not have my mental game together. I was not accepting. And if you remember, you actually answered one of my questions on the podcast of when can I lose weight again kind of deal. Or I can't remember how we phrased it, but you very kindly were like, hey, if you don't let this fix, you're never going to be comfortable. And that was when I had already been recovered like 6 or 7 months. I was like, is it time? Can I get back? Am I done yet? Because I mean, I stopped exercising completely. Because I had never taken a rest day. I mean, we're talking 5, 6, 7 years of exercise, never one rest day, ever. Had to get my, I was up to 15,000 steps, had to get that a day. I also was only sleeping for maybe 4 or 5 hours a night.
And you were still doing that in like when you were recovered, or you mean prior?
Well, it was the more I learned, the more I did. So it was like every day, because I had a backlog of podcasts. So every day when I would listen, because nobody wanted to talk to me about hormones by that point, they were so done hearing about me after I found out about it, because I was pissed.
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to know how I had been wronged. And I wanted everybody to know that this is a problem, that it was able to be fixed without pills. And I really started taking it one piece of advice at a time. Like, from your challenge, like social media wasn't a huge issue for me. No, I take that back. It was. I didn't see, I only have Facebook. I only have Facebook, but if you look at who I follow, like The.Rock, Sylvester Stallone, like anybody that was hardcore fitness, even, I mean, it didn't occur to me that they weren't women. I was like, let's get it. I think I told you, I watched like the Rocky training montages like it's porn. I mean, I'm like, wow, I love it.
Yeah.
So,
y'all, we have been trying to record this for like 30 minutes. So here we go. Take 580. Hey, did you know that we support people with HA, low progesterone, anovulation, short luteal phases, and all of the types of challenges that come up with infertility?
Dani and I are practitioners that have helped hundreds of women beat HA, regain fertility, and get pregnant naturally.
We are here to break the status quo of spending tens of thousands of dollars on IVF treatments for women who have issues that can absolutely be solved naturally.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So we do this with our signature program that restores ovulation to regain healthy menstrual cycles. And if you're ready, get pregnant completely naturally.
On top of our one-on-one sessions, our fertility program even includes a styling session with Samantha Dawn, who is a body positive stylist. She's also our personal stylist.
Yes.
And an expert in helping you to dress your new and nourished body.
This is so important that we don't even need to convince you on how important this is. We want you to relearn how to nourish your body, claim your fertility, and feel confident in your clothes as your body changes. It doesn't have to be painful.
No, yeah, exactly right. It doesn't have to be painful. With a little bit of guidance and support, you can absolutely do this. So if getting your cycle back and if feeling good about the process, if getting pregnant naturally is something you want to do, if you don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on medical treatment for something that you don't have to, we have just the place for you to go. So go to the hasociety.com/coaching to learn more about who we are, what we do, and apply today.
Yeah, we look forward to supporting you.
That was good. Do you like that one?
Yeah, okay. I do like that one. That one's way more us.
Yeah, boom. There you go.
But yeah, I started trading out my caffeine in the morning. I started limiting that. And then incoming the stage of potatoes. Hadn't had potatoes in years. With the exception of one time on Thanksgiving, and then I would run a 5K to make up for the potatoes, but let's just leave that one where it is. But I started incorporating sweet potatoes. And one of your podcasts, you mentioned you'll know that you're through recovery when peanut butter becomes just a regular food.
Yes.
I mean, I was having like an affair with the peanut butter jar every day. Like I was cleaning it out, a whole jar in a day, because that was like an allowed food. Low carbs, or if no carbs, I don't think, and fat and protein. Like, ooh, and it was always like candy until I would. But anyway, so I started like incorporating potatoes, and then I started buying different types of meats. And I went through like a very large bloat period. I don't know. I have no doctor to say this, but I do remember learning about the soldiers coming back in World War II from the Pacific. And when they finally got food again, that they went through like a major bloat period. Because, after being prisoners in the Pacific. And I remember feeling massive because I went from 100 pounds up to 140 within a few months. And I mean, that's really unhealthy to do that fast. But
the body's what do I do with all of this? What do I do with all of this glucose? Like, I haven't processed all of this before, and it starts to hurt. Were you uncomfortable?
Oh my goodness. And so unwilling to part with my 00 jeans and my size 2 jeans and everything else. So unwilling to part with it. And, bless my husband, because he went along with me, and never once did he ever put criticism on anything I did. But there were a few times where I'm like, I'm hideous.
Yep.
And I remember him getting out all of his clothes and trying on all of his jeans for me. And he was like, look, these are all the same size. And look at how I look pudgy in this pair. Look at how I've got like muffin top on this pair. Look at how these ones are baggy.
I love him.
But he like showed me the tags for each one.
All the same.
They were all the same. And it wasn't until seeing it on a guy who, I mean, he looks great. Like he's in great shape and everything. Seeing him have the same things that I was battling with mentally, it never, it didn't really hit home. I have to be kind of smacked with, or hit with bricks to accept things, because I'm a very harsh judge on everybody and anybody. I'm extremely judgmental, but I like to
praise you for your I just am. Hey.
But I like to think that I pass that same kind of judgment on myself. And I mean, that's a lot of where my problems came from, right? It has been since, I recovered, but I was not mentally accepting of where I was for a long time. And I don't remember if it was you or Ashley that said, after a year, you start to look at your body differently. And honest to God, when I passed a year mark, I started realizing that, like, I'm not overweight. I'm not, the whole episode where it's not you, it's your clothes.
Oh, yes.
It was absolutely my clothes.
Yeah.
And then I started, it was at that point that I was finally able to say, like, okay, well, this doesn't mean I'm overweight. It just means I've got a little bit more junk here, or, I'm actually real thin here, but, this part's a little thicker. And I was starting to see and appreciate that, like, this is the way I'm shaped. It's not like I'm like overweight in any kind of way in that respect. But I had listened to all of the stories about thunder thighs and all of that. I always applied to myself. And I noticed that I'm a little bit less judgmental of other people because I've gotten nicer to myself. Which is nice. I'm sure my friends appreciate it. the few that I have.
Well, it
But
sounds like through the adversity that you've actually gone through, you've been able to develop a level of compassion,
right.
like understanding, empathy. I see what they're going through. I see how this happens now. That
Yeah.
that in the past I equated weight with like the lack of discipline and the inability
Yes,
to just like make it happen. You're like, oh,
absolutely.
actually, what I'm doing is a bit over the top, and I'm also striving for actually something that's really quite difficult to obtain and remain
Right.
healthy. And like you have more information allowing you to
Right.
perform this and more experience in the world. It's just
Right.
like we just continue to mature and learn. And I do think that as a bunch of white women in Western countries, this is a form of adversity that we go through this process. And we are living in and have been raised in a very judgmental world when it comes to bodies and expectations on ourselves, that like we cannot be mad or judgmental of ourselves for the fact that this happened or that we had these beliefs. I really love and appreciate how you can call it out, and see how this process has changed your way of thinking. And
Yeah.
that until you go through something like this, it's actually very difficult to change your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, and then the fact that, and I don't know how this usually happens, because usually you hear of people when they have an eating disorder never being satisfied with the way they look. But I had actually reached a place where I was so proud. I was so, in love with, how much I exercised, and I loved it. It was my personality. It was the only thing I had. People came to me for advice. And then to recognize that there was an issue and I needed to let it go was, not to be dramatic, but like soul crushing, because it was like, this is the first and only time that I set a goal, I reached it, I kept it. I had never set any other goals, because like I said, this was an issue from even back in grade school, where I wasn't in the body that I wanted. I saw as everybody being at an advantage because they were thinner than me. They had, the typical stick cheerleading gymnast body. And I never thought it was possible for me. And then I went through all of it and I got it. And it didn't matter to me for a while that nothing else in my body was working, that everything was falling apart. And even, I mean, like I couldn't have been much fun to be around. Like, I don't
No.
Again, bless my husband, like never once did he give me a hard time. He let me do, what I wanted, but was also, if I ever asked his advice, he gave it well. Like, is that really, I'm like, I don't know why I'm hungry. Well, what did you eat today? I had, 2 carrots. You probably need a lot more protein, Abs. Like, he waited to be asked all the time, but was there from me from beginning to end. And I never felt like I was rejected because of it. I would have rejected me. Like, good grief. I mean, I couldn't go out to dinner with him without like looking at the menu and planning exactly what I was going to do and the exercise afterwards. Oh God.
My husband went through the same thing. Many people said they really are like some of the unspoken MVPs. For sort of like sticking by us. A lot of the time they don't actually realize that like, yes, they can see that like what we do is a bit like
Obsessive.
rigid.
Yeah, rigid.
But they don't necessarily know that it's like a problem.
Right. Because I mean, like that wasn't something I talked to my husband frequently about, like, oh, missed a period again. Like, I don't want to make him nervous or anything, because it's not like, being married, it's not like it would have been a bad thing to have kids, but we were just newly married, and we weren't really ready for that at all. Still wanted to go on vacations and cruises and everything with just the two of us. And he actually had a big weight loss journey himself. When he got into college, he dropped 60 pounds and has kept it off since, for about like 10 years or so. And so I always used him as my example, but the things that he did was more appropriate for, his hormones and stuff. It wasn't appropriate for me. And it took me a very long time to figure that out at all. I'm embarrassed to even say, we have differences, and why didn't I see it before? There's so many things I wish I had known. I really, looking back, really wish that I hadn't done it alone. Because by the time I met with you, I was recovered in the physical sense, but mentally an absolute mess. Just like didn't even know what to.
You have the ability to discipline your way through things regardless of how you feel.
Right. Which, yay, is great. No, didn't.
Well, it's a great quality for many things, but it kind of great quality if you're in like the military.
Well, and I wanted to go into the military. Here's the thing. I wanted to go into the military when I was in high school, but looking back on it, wanted to do it because I thought I could control my weight there best.
Oh, I had the exact same theory. I
really
legit was like, maybe I should have like joined the Australian Defence Force, because then it'll be like my job to be fit,
Yes.
Which is actually not how it works. They drink like crazy, eat like crap, and like as soon as they're out of general training, they're just like regular people. But I mean, unless you become like a commando, which is just like not gonna happen.
Oh,
women aren't even on the front line most of the time. So yeah, the whole thing is absurd.
It's beyond the fact that I thought about it. I did all the training. I actually went through the training. I went through the interviews to go into the ROTC in college. And then they told me that there was something wrong with my feet. And I was like, okay, well, it's a sign. I'll move on to something else. But I mean, like, I was going that way. Every one of my decisions, I mean, I even chose, here's the sick thing. I chose South Carolina away from Pittsburgh because I was like, ooh, it's warmer. I'll have to be in a bathing suit frequently. Let me make sure that I stay thin by being in a climate that's warmer, where I'm always having to bathing suit shop.
Because it'll like mentally keep you focused.
It'll mentally keep me thin.
God.
Yes.
Look at this.
It bled through everything in my life. So it was a hard breakup period. It was a really rough breakup, but by the time I finally talked to you, I realized how desperately I needed to talk to somebody, because even one of the first doctors, they were like, yeah, it was even before I lost my period. I recognized that I had some, psychotic eating patterns, and the doctor said, yeah, he was like, this is definitely disordered eating. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do about it? And he was like, you should probably go, to therapy. I was like, never mind, not doing that. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your opinion. But then when I finally talked to you and you got on the call, and I think you were probably confused, like, okay, you're recovered. Like, what do you want? But I just wanted mental confirmation, because I had done it all on my own. I had completely gotten rid of all the doctors because they were, in my mind, stupid. I know not all of them are, but I was so mad because I had been turned down and misled by 3 or 4. And when you asked me what happened, it was like, oh, gut wrenching. Like, how did this happen? And I didn't even really know what to say. And I know that you're opening this certification program, and I hope I'm like top on the list, because I can't wait to, do what you're doing and try to help somebody else out of this. but I lost my train of thought. I can't remember where I was going with that, but I am excited.
What we talked about, I asked what happened and you were like, I don't even know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't know what happened. And
I remember we looked at, it was like, okay, you're recovered, but there's something like, I almost feel like you weren't sure, like you needed confirmation that you had done it. And that you were very anxious about something, like the whole process, like maybe what to do next, like how to kind of maintain this. What do I do now that I've like finished like I've got the period back, like what do I do? And you had, I thought one thing I remember, which is actually so funny to me. So typically when people get their first few recovery periods, they don't look super crash hot. And I didn't know what yours looked like. You had recovered a few times, but we had spoke and I had your chart and I was looking at it, and I keep track of my clients' charts on the back end so I can see them through an app, even like without talking to you. And I remember texting you and being like, hey, take a pregnancy test. Cause you had a 16, 15-day luteal phase or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I never see that. Like I never see it. It's really good. It was like so good. Like the only time I see it is like because someone's pregnant. It's ideal. It's like the gold standard is like 14 to 16 days. People are like scraping through on 10, 11 days usually. So I was like, take a test, because it's like 9.5 out of 10 times I'm working with someone who's trying to get pregnant and that's what it looks like. And then you were like, oh shit, because you didn't want to be pregnant. And I just like totally spaced on that you didn't want to be pregnant. And so I was like talking to you as though like, hey, this could be really good. And then you were like, this is not good.
Well,
you weren't pregnant. But
no, I wasn't. But you know what had happened is I had just booked a cruise that morning and I didn't put I just booked a cruise to go to Greece and Italy, and I didn't get the insurance, and I was like, who's gonna watch my 2-month-old baby? That was that's how not ready I was.
And then I was like, oh my God, you might not be though. You might not, because you started like freaking out about it. I was like, how you don't even know it, go take the test. And then you took the test.
I was like, but I mean, I'm sure I could have adapted, but it wasn't.
No, it's just funny.
Looking back on it, it's hysterical now, but yeah, it was very. I wasn't sure how to chart, and you taught me that, and
I just remember like talking and being like, you're doing great. Like you just need to be stopping so hard on yourself. Like I just remembered that because we just did a single call. And I like reviewed all of your stuff and like had some idea, like some basic like little ideas to help you optimize, which you obviously did. And then you had like these great cycles. But I do remember just having to be like, Abby, you are a human being. Like you're doing great. Like there's not actually anything wrong. Like you're on the path, and that's where you're supposed to be.
I felt like I was doing something wrong because nobody else besides us, I feel like, talks about this. Everybody else like at work, they do like a weight loss challenge, and everybody else that I know is always trying to lose weight, and they're like, oh, you're trying to gain weight. Oh, how wonderful. And, like just really almost making it a joke, like, oh, you don't need anything. What are you doing? And I felt completely alone. And, my husband is a boy. He doesn't really get it. He was like, yay, hormones. Yeah. And then even my bestie and my mom, like they supported, but they didn't know how, because other than the books that I had read and having the podcast, I wasn't sure. I didn't feel like I could trust any of the doctors. So I just wanted somebody to give me that gold star.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, I get that. A lot of people just need that. Like I'm because we have a hard time applying facts to ourselves, even when it comes to like, you knew that rest days had benefits, right? Like you knew that fueling your workouts had benefits. So why did that not apply to you? We don't apply logic to ourselves. We think we're special. We think we're unique. We think that, doing it that way sounds too good. Like rest days sound too good. I don't deserve, that's not going to work for me. It's very interesting. So often in the other direction, we need confirmation, because it's like, well, recovery, like weight gain doesn't sound like
it doesn't sound like healthy. I mean, I was also very confused because, I'd picked up some, like, one of the intuitive eating book, and I was reading through that and working through that and applying like the food recommendations that you had given me. And I was full. I was satisfied. I liked what I was eating. I wasn't craving things like a mad woman anymore. And I was like, okay, this probably isn't going to be forever. This is just one of the many.
Scary to feel all those things.
Yes. And I thought for sure, like, okay, well, when's this going to end? And look at all of the damage I'm doing, because I felt like I was just causing myself more damage. Look at all the damage I'm doing by this. You're gaining weight. Oh no, let's see if you can get back down to the same weight and still have a period. And so everything felt like it was still a punishment. And then when I started to let go of that, I was like,
this
oh my goodness,
how I just live my life. Like, this is actually an option. It's scary because there's no like rules. There's no guidelines.
Yes, there's no guidelines. Oh my gosh, if I would like a scoop of ice cream, I can have a scoop of ice cream and then I'm done. What? One? Why? And because it used to be like, oh, we have ice cream in the fridge. It's on, or the freezer. It's gone. Like, it's here, and then it has to be removed because I'm eating it all. Right? Yes.
And you don't believe it's possible. You're like, this is just my personality. This is, and you hear, oh, okay. Like I'll hear people who not in this space. They're just like, I just am obsessed with food, or like, I just am a foodie. And Ashley and I have been toying with this idea of like, is anyone actually a foodie?
Right.
Is anyone actually unable to like, does anyone actually have to inhale their whole meal, or are they just hungry?
Are they that deprived? Are they that mentally not connected to themselves and what they're eating that they've developed this obsession? I felt the same way.
And so when you keep levels of restriction in your recovery, which most of us do at some point, takes us a while to even identify that we're holding on to some rules and guidelines because they keep us safe, but the brain knows that there's restriction. And so you continue to have like a binge restrict type of relationship with food until you can fully be like, everything is an option.
Oh, I even had an issue with fruit. Because I mean, I can remember, well, back when I wasn't able to buy the food, when my mom would buy the food, like, oh, there's a bag of grapes in there. That bag of grapes is supposed to last us the week. And that idea would freak me out on grapes. I'm like, I have to eat them all. And then, even as an adult, it took me a long time to work out of that. I mean, even when you're going to a restaurant, this is the only time you get to eat it. You got to eat it now. And I'm starting to notice that more and more, that like, I can make these delicious recipes from a book. I can cook with butter. I can have oil. And I might have had country fried steak for dinner on Friday, which to many is not seen as a super healthy meal, but I've actually gotten to a place where I don't have to think about my weight anymore. Like, I could, if I weigh myself, I'm like, I'm pretty much the same. And it, to me, was never possible to stay at any weight. If I ate what I wanted, I was going to gain. And that was the biggest fear, of going backwards. But I'm just shocked to see that now that there's no measurement, there's no heavy thinking about it, that I'm finally free from it. And it just breaks me to see how many people are not free from something that they need. Like, you need food. You can never officially break up from it, but it ruins so many parts of their life, and they're not living at all because of it, because of how much brain space it takes up, because of how much time, because of, yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah, so that is my story, and I hope that it can help somebody, because these conversations were what helped me. And so it's really 100%. I feel like I've come full circle. Full circle.
Yeah. And I want to kind of end with this for us. In listening to your story and how well you have articulated it, and the feelings and experiences, and how much of it you have been through, that is like shared experiences that everyone can kind of listen to, like, yeah, that was me. Those attributes make really good coaches, and make like really helpful and impactful help. And just knowing that you have an interest in finding some way to contribute to this, like this community and these people, like I feel wholeheartedly that you will be amazing at it. Like, no matter what you choose, if you choose to just like post online, or if you choose to start coaching, or if you choose to go into some field where like maybe it comes up, like, I don't know. But I can tell that you will have like a gift for it, for sure. Just in your ability to have like, say, hey, yeah, I know how that feels, and it feels like this, and I relate, and here's why it's not true.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And it just is such a testimony to what you did, because none of the doctors seem to care, and it makes a difference when you have somebody that has been through it and is strictly in it, to be like, hey, I can save you.
For sure. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story on the show. I'm sure people absolutely loved it. Guys, everyone loves Abby. Abby, are you online?
Thanks. Not really. I mean, I've got a Facebook, okay. But I'm kind of lame.
All good. Well,
when I get my certification, maybe I'll change that.
Yeah. Gotta do it. All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Abby, and see you in our text messages.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much, because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women